Hello everyone. Today I wanted to bring you a shortened version of a live stream I did a while ago where I did a deal no damage run directly, at least not through cards in the deck, but only through items. I wanted to do this run because live streams are very long and I don't know if everybody got the chance to see it, but this is one of my favorite runs that I've ever done, so I really wanted to make a cut version of this one as well, doing my normal format of a sort of sped up footage where I do commentary over. I do hope you all enjoy. Perks are going to be in the description. I'll try to go over deck making and stuff as best I can in each town, of course, and we can get straight into it, I think. So what I wanted to go over is that we have Heiner, Sylvie, Nesglect, and Magnus. The reason we are taking Sylvie is because she's a fast scout, she can help us with speed, and she's going to be applying thorns to herself in high quantity. Heiner is a really great tank. He's going to let us survive while we let poison and bleed do the majority of the work at the very beginning of the game. And Nesglect's also going to be able to filter our deck quite well, and a good healer as well. That is kind of a sentence, but you know what? I'm going to go with it because we are live. So I'm going to start the video now. Yeah. Alright, so I want to say initially I did do this run trying to do it without any like high source of direct damage with items, like just sort of low sources like energy shield. That was what originally inspired the run. But yeah, we get an emerald necklace here on Sylvie. that run didn't work out. It can't beat hanshek. Hanshek is just impossible. It can get all the way to hanshek with just bleed and poison, and that's about it for the primary damage, but not enough else. I'm going through the decks here. Feel free to pause and rewind if you need to. Those are all the decks on the very left side. We get a shop here. It's not really too great, and we get into our first fight. All of these fights are going to be painfully slow. I can't play any attacks that are in the starting deck. I also had to opt out of taking a lot of money because I needed the resistances for the late game. So that my heroes could survive really rough turns in case I drew badly, or just, I mean, honestly, just because I can't kill enemies with any easy consistency. It's all going to be kind of randomized, so I really just gotta go with it. Magnus does provide a little bit of slow. He's really great. The reason we are running Magnus is, as you might have seen in the thumbnail, he is the best hero with COLDBONE. He's able to apply a ton of reinforce to himself and the entire team. He starts with reinforce each battle. COLDBONE deals damage to a random enemy every time you deal reinforce. It's also cold damage, so we are running the wet cold perk, of course, and we are trying to run as many of these bleed rains and toxic rains as we can, while dispelling stuff on all our heroes whenever we get the chance. The initial fortify is really helping us out. The thorns in the beginning is also helping. As you can see, Sylvie got up to 49 thorns very early on, where the rest of our heroes were at like 13, if that. So pretty solid stuff, all things considered. Here I have to debate between a defend and a spike shield on Magnus. Spike shield's better earlier, defends better later because it applies reinforce, and we're eventually going to be wanting that. We do get a nice adrenaline pickup, so that's pretty sweet. And we got to shake it off on Heiner. It's going to be very useful for helping him keep himself alive, because it dispels 3 at the cost of discarding a random card and 1 energy. So nothing too crazy here. The strat is to just go through the hatch, get a boon card from tying up a pig, which we already tied up. Or not, we didn't tie it up, but we got the rope to tie the pig up, and then we'll go into the hatch. This boon card is going to give us energy in the late game, which is going to be fairly helpful. It's always just nice to have a little bit of extra energy and powerful. I'm not running the full powerful perks on Magnus because it's just too unreliable in the late game. At least I felt it was. I wasn't sure who was going to be providing powerful or how I was going to be doing it, so I just decided not to go deep into it. I also just wasn't sure how well COLDBONE damage was going to work. The reason I ended up deciding on COLDBONE was, one, because it is a fairly easy to damage or scale damage type in Frost, and 2, because we need direct damage. Here we get a repair armor, one of my favorite cards in the game. It does apply reinforce, gets rid of mark and crack, which is pretty nice, but really the reinforce is good. And we get a nice heal card on Nez. Honestly, I didn't really have a lot of heal perks on him. I mean, I had a few. Pretty much nobody was running like that much damage outside of Sylvie, because Sylvie's hardly does some damage. But yeah, like the damage just isn't worth running when you're not attacking with any cards in the entire deck, and feel free to watch this whole run through to see to completion. I do not attack with any cards in the entire deck for any of our heroes. So mostly it's just enemies killing themselves and slowly dying to poison. This run is a huge pain when you fight enemies like these pigs, because these pigs sometimes just refuse to attack you, and then they heal themselves up and get rid of bleed, which we don't want them to get rid of since that's one of our primary damage sources. So yeah, we're really just at the whims of the enemy here. And you can see they're just not attacking us. We can't play... Like, we start with a bunch of curse cards in our deck for all our heroes as well, because I didn't have the money to get rid of them, and we can't play attacks, so, like, basically, bluff is useless, all those sorts of things are useless. The only nice thing that we do have going for us is we have a lot of energy on all of our heroes for most of our turns, because we can't spend it very effectively in the early game, which, you know, you can see as a good or bad, depending. But yeah, eventually this pig does decide that he's going to kill himself by attacking Heiner, and that's nice, and we're also going to be able to apply enough bleed and poison to eventually rack up that damage. We get a good sprint here. Sprint is an early game or initial card draw. It is just very nice for a scout to have. You can trace yourself, then you can draw a card with sprint. It also gives her 3 fast, which is sometimes relevant. And of course, we're taking any barricade that we can on Magenus. It's a very important part of his damage in the late game. Anything that applies reinforce to the entire team is going to do a lot of extra damage for us, so I am very much going for that as often as I can. Hopefully that music is not too loud. I'm gonna lower it a little bit. But yeah, one of the nice things about this run, because we're not really attacking outside of maybe Sylvie's Harley, we don't have to worry about Thorns Corruptors too much, if at all, because like it doesn't do anything to us. Really, Sylvie's the only one who can possibly get hurt by it, and she's only going to attack one enemy once. So we can just play into this Corruptor as much as we want and get whatever rewards. And Thorns Corruptors also tend not to reduce like our turn count. We're pretty slow regardless, and it's just going to be that way. I'm going to turn down the music just slightly. Hopefully that's not too much. I don't know. Still trying to find a good balance. One of the unironically good cards on Sylvie's deck that probably never sees play outside of these weird challenge runs is the Steel Skin. Is it Steel Skin? No, it's not Steel Skin. Stone Skin. There it is. I'm glad it appeared right then. Picking up another Reinforce seems decent on Magnus. Helping Hand, of course. We're picking up a lot on Heiner, which is good. Happy to see it early. Helping Hands. These Broken Bones are annoying. The Stone Skins are great. They apply 8 Thorns. They're actually the highest Thorns application for energy in the game outside of like the doubling one. Or perhaps the massive Thorns like to the entire team if you have the right perks for it, which is, you know, sometimes doable. I did see Scrag try this run afterwards, where he went hard into Dark End Thorns, and it was pretty cool. We also had another a watcher at the time who had done the run as well, who went with the more Straw Hat build, really mainlining that thing. So this was really cool. I won't spoil how those runs went for each of them. I will tell you, not all of them won. Hanshek is really scary. The early game's really scary. We really have to worry about the tree. We even have to worry about the early game bosses. They're just a little bit troubling for us in many ways. Like Belfior, he does a lot of damage. Enemies like this, when we can't get enough block on Sylvie on the right turns, they can just snipe her, and not too much we can do about it. We're really waiting for Steelforge on Heiner. Steelforge is what's going to let us survive many of these long-lasting turns. We can't really do much about these summoners summoning enemies. Summoners are a really big problem for this team. This team can't fight rifts because the back guy just continues to summon enemies, and they're really high damage enemies if we're not doing a ton to them in time, and they provide a lot of buffer to themselves. Now we have to choose between Dispel magic and an upgraded Fortune Telling. Really hard choice for me. Barricade on Heiner is great. I think, yeah, I don't remember what I opt for. I opt for the Fortune Telling because it's a more shard effective get right there. And we're going to be really poor this run because we are finishing all fights incredibly slowly. I should say, one of the reasons that we're running Sylvie is because one of the only ways you can increase thorns damage, much like I did in my all skills challenge. The only way you can increase thorns damage is by reducing resistances on enemy. This is why she pairs well with Nezglect here, and why we have Oculi as well. The more sight we apply on enemy, the more we reduce their piercing resistance, which is the damage type of thorns. So that's really all there is to it. So getting 29 thorns on Belfior is really good for making him take a lot. Belfior is still very scary to us. We have to manage our block very well. There's a good chance he kills Sylvie with a Death's Door in her deck, is even more likely to die now. And we are using Nezglect to the best of our abilities, using Scries and stuff to get rid of all the damage. Now, Belfior is scary because of this turn, round 3. We are able to survive with block, fortunately. But going fast is going to be really difficult. I make the decision to have Magnus go first there because I believed Magnus could slow down Belfior enough and also block for the team to survive a lot of the fire. We don't have a great way of getting rid of the fire. I really wish I took a healing rain, like in retrospect, going down this route. It would have been far better for us. Nezglect dying here is a really rough time because now we don't have any heals. So a lot of deaths in the early game. He does eventually blow himself up on the massive amount of thorns. Here we get a Detoxify. I didn't feel like I needed it. We get a purple multi-shot too, which is super unnecessary. This is a really good get though. We get leather boots and we get slippers, so I'm able to speed up Heiner, which is pretty relevant. Nezglect can take some evasion because him dying there scared me. And then Sylvie can get slippers, so she's definitely going to be faster than pretty much any enemy in the early game, and then outside of like Dryad. And we get a card remove. No, we get an altar here. Because we're just going down the regular altar route. I wasn't sure what my pathing was going to be. Apparently Heiner's option when he's not there is just awful. It was something funny on stream when this happened. I was just like, wow, I guess Heiner just sucks, and he gets another broken bone in his deck because his option's terrible. For whatever reason, I don't really know. Now that we all leveled up though, just before the final boss, which is great, and we're able to pick up Blood Blob, or the reason that we did this route is because we wanted to pick up Blood Blob. It does apply bleed based on the enemy's bleed, so it sort of ramps up exponentially on the bleed, which is super good for us because Harley's applying some bleed. We also made sure that enemies are not immune to bleed. It does make bleed act like poison, where it does damage at the end of the turn, which means it really sucks when they dispel it, when Yelmer does dispel, but Yelmer would be immune to bleed anyways, so it's really just a benefit against him. It lets us take him down a little bit easier. I know Scrag got through it with doing thorns, like just thorns damage and some dark damage, and it worked out just fine for him. A little bit challenging. You do get into a very late phase if you're doing it that way, but hey, if it works, it works. On top of that, not too much else to say. We'd love to, of course, focus the Dryad, but we have no way of doing so. We just have to eat its attacks. Thankfully, it does have Starfall, so if it managed to land a bunch of attacks on Sylvie, it'll take a few more thorns damage than than it can easily survive. That said, it does apply Sanctify to our entire team, which is not too great, and it gets to heal up and apply speed up to the enemies, so now we're all going to be slow. The Moonblast, thankfully, we're able to survive fairly well. Steel Skin will make sure, or Steel Forge, sorry, will make sure that we survive really well in the late game. One of the things that's good about Nez and Sylvie also in tandem with any Thorns build is they're 2 level 1 or level 2 heroes cards. Sylvie gets that enchantment that reduces piercing resistance, and then every time the monster gets hit, it applies mark and stuff. Doesn't really come up too much outside of Harley hitting the back monster, so it will proc. Same with Nezglect, he reduces all resistances by 20%, so he'll actually help the Coldbone's damage even later, and that'll be pretty nice. Now, item damage does not trigger on hit effects, so we never have to worry about that resistance really like negative resistance falling off, meaning Coldbone damage gets to take advantage of it for as long as possible, which sounds kind of bad if you want the Dark Explosion early, but it's also just really good if you want that negative resistance in a long, drawn-out fight of attrition, which this most certainly is. Heiner lost all his block here. As you can see, Nez is going down pretty hard. Thankfully, we have these Dispels, and we have the Detoxifies as well. It hurts to keep getting rid of all these slows. The Helping Hand upgrade here was really nice. When we were at the altar, we were able to get that Helping Hand. to de-shackles. It comes up quite often. There's a lot of enemies who like to shackles you in the game. Now that the ads are dead, we're finally able to focus on Yelmer himself. Not that we were focusing anything in general. He keeps dispelling himself. But we got enough thorns on the entire team that he does kill himself with the moonbeam pretty fast, on top of the poison and the bleed, sort of keeping him in check. I really just don't want Nezglek to die, so arguably I should give it to him. I kind of just also believe he's going to die, so I make sure I make Heiner faster than the tree, because Heiner could give him enough block to hopefully survive. All we need is for the tree to attack one more time, and he will go down. He's going to apply a bunch of fury to himself, and I just hope he doesn't kill and dies. Yeah, and it worked out. So we get another adrenaline on Sylvie. Energy will be kind of nice in the late game, at least I hope it will. That is sort of the goal. Otherwise, we don't have too much going on. Battle plan I was thinking about for Magnus. Stockade, of course, is really great. Applies 6 thorns to the entire team as well as block, and it is a defense card, so fantastic option there. Yggdrasil Root, adding thorns to yourself is pretty nice. It's unfortunately not like my skills one where it does it every turn. Regen is also nice in a long drawn out fight of attrition. Horseshoe is kind of cool. It gives you that speed. So with that, Sylvie will be faster than any enemy in the game if I give it to her. But I kind of wanted Nezglek to be faster, and if I can make sure that he heals us at campsites as well as gives us a card remove, that would be nice. So here I'm going to show off all my decks as they are. Feel free to look at them. I need to get rid of all these injuries. They're going to slow me down way too much. So got to take a brief look at the shop there, but honestly, don't look too hard because we're down to 419 gold, so not too much. For whatever reason, I got rid of the Scries in Nez's deck first instead of getting rid of the Foresights. Very dumb decision by me, but I was, you know, streaming, I guess. I don't know. I don't really have an excuse. So I still have a Foresight rather than a Scry. Scry would be way better, of course. And yeah, these are all the decks. Again, feel free to pause. We are going to make our way straight over to the COLDBONE as fast as possible. We do get a nice pet trainer on the way. I'm going to train up Heiner's pet, largely because Oculi getting damage would just make it so Nez takes more damage to Thorns Corruptors, and Thorns Corruptors are the only ones we can safely take right now. There's a few others we won't be able to take as easily, though the team is very, very good at surviving. I mean, that is the whole point. It just applies some statuses to enemies and lets them die to those statuses over a long, drawn-out battle. Yeah. I know I said this makes us poor, but you can really see that come into effect in Act 2, where I was just like dirt poor, had no money. That was less money than I had on the take no damage run that I was doing with GA, which I released last week. Yeah, and that was with all our money being split between us, so I really am used to being super poor. Plus all the death doors, of course, eat into our money quite a bit. Not too much. I mean, I could do a little bit better play, I guess, but honestly, there's sometimes like you just get focused and there's not much you can do. These Blood Rains from Magnus, I was hoping were going to be really good in the later stages of the game. Applying 3 wet to all enemies is going to be 3 extra damage for the cold whenever we're doing it. So it's kind of like applying Mark. Really good, really good. I mean, wet builds in general right now, alongside Lightning, for that matter, is just they're just really strong spot. I would highly recommend it if you're struggling with Madness 16. I have a few videos on doing those earlier. Shameless plug, I guess. No, I was just trying to help out with some advice in case anybody's struggling and not doing stupid challenge runs like this one. This one, like I said, I did a whole nother run on this beforehand, trying a completely different strategy. Spent at least like 10 hours or 12 hours trying to make like different strategies work for this, until I realized that Heiner, as always, is the answer. And never forget Heiner. But no, seriously, COLDBONE was the answer. There's just no other answer to hanshek in terms of dealing damage with items, I don't think. If anyone has done it without COLDBONE, I would love to know. Like legitimately post it in like comments, or I don't know, message me on Discord or something. It'd be really cool to see. Because like this run was crazy to me. Yeah. It takes a lot to try and make this work. It's actually not too bad throughout the game. As you can see, although fights take quite a while, and we do go down in health a lot. Like, we don't have the best sources of healing, mainly because I wanted to get a lot more damage through thorns so we don't have to, like, die to doom that often. We do have a lot of blocking, and we do have a source of healing as well as, like, the ability to get rid of all those bad statuses that will kill us faster, so things are going pretty good on that end. Yeah, time for me to take a little bit of a break and, like, think about how the run's going. As you see, Steelforge is kind of helping us stay alive, but Heiner's not going to live too much longer, and we really can't afford to have him be at 2 HP in the next fight. So we're trying to discard as many cards as we can from him in the beginning and heal him up with Curative Therapy. But, yeah, he's at 8 HP. It's not good. Nothing here really sticks out to me. Spike Shield, I don't really want at this point. We want to get as much reinforced stuff as possible. I did not know how effective Magenus could be with that COLDBONE. I'll tell you why he takes it a little bit later once we get there. Here we get a nice free card remove at the camp, just like I was hoping. So we did get a nice heal as well because Nezglet gets to succeed on every single event. I just had enough money to buy the COLDBONE Goblet, and it was a purple one, which was really nice. I do have full frost damage charges in Magnus's perk page, as well as, I think, full frost charges, and then, of course, some bleed charges, because he's going to be providing bleed a lot of the time. But, yeah, the the COLDBONE damage isn't going to be immediate. We're just not applying wet at a rapid enough rate right now to see it stack up very quickly. It will do some damage over time, but it's not going to be like too much better than most of the thorns that we're applying to ourselves right now. What it will do is apply chill to enemies at a fairly decent rate, in large part because it is upgraded to the purple version. So that's just pure luck on my part. It was meant to be on this run, I suppose you could say, which is kind of cool. Makes me very happy. What's fun too about like things like this is like disarm doesn't matter. Heiner was never attacking anyway. I just like these types of runs. Sylvie's stacking up thorns really well, and she's just like gonna be almost unkillable. I would have had her in the front, except for the fact there's a lot of enemies that like to purge block. And if she got her block purge, she doesn't have that much HP. She's not going to be as resistant as Heiner. And so she would go down a lot faster in fights like these, fighting the slimes or anything else that purges block. So I just didn't think I could risk it. I think I was right to have her second. It's where she can do kind of like the next most damage with all her thorns. And anything that hits AoE will still attack. I totally forgot that this like champion variant summons a goblin after a while. So that was a little fun surprise for me. I was like, right, yeah, all these things that I never know because the fights normally don't go on that long, or at least I don't leave champions alive for that long because they tend to ruin my day if they're alive. But COLDBONE damage eventually gets there is actually fairly respectable at like 18, 20 a pop. Getting another Caltrops is really nice for Sylvie. I take a spike shield, not spike shield, but one of the spiked AoE shields on Magnus because I figured that'd be good, but it's really only good for the time being, and it's going to be bad in Act 2. There I was pretty happy to get like 20 direct damage across like 3 enemies. That excited me way more than it should have. I was like, man, look at this, we actually have some damage now. Arguably I should be keeping some of the blood rains to increase my damage even more. Though any blood rain that Magnus plays is a non-reinforced card that he's playing, so definitely a little bit of a give and take there. This fight, there's nothing too scary to me. Spider's a little bit annoying. They put hatches into the deck. The back guy, he likes to apply a lot of regen to himself. The thorns that he adds isn't too scary. The magic mushrooms he adds is just as annoying as like the hatches. They just reduce energy. But I guess they don't summon an enemy, so they're not just as annoying to me. The other thing that he does that's really annoying is summon 2 mosquitoes, and mosquitoes do really well with bleed and poison on them. They like to transfer a lot of that bleed and poison. But thankfully, it was late enough in the rounds that we already have a ton of thorns on ourselves, so they kill themselves really quickly. We're able to stack up block as well. The bleed and poison did hurt us a little bit. often trying to find ways to apply more sight or insanity to enemies. There's a hatch coming up, making the fight take even longer, except Magnus was actually able to get the kill, which was super sweet. One of the reasons that I was excited about this run as well was because it makes a card like Twilight Swamp actually good. I made sure I had some dark charges here, but yeah. Let me go over that really quickly. Twilight Swamp applies 5 wet to everybody, and slow as well. It applies 8 dark to everyone as well. Mulaka is like a much better user of it, but Nez is just fine. The 5 wet is 5 extra damage on every proc of COLDBONE, so really, really significant on the entire enemy team. And also applying wet to ourselves can help us survive some fire. So really cool card overall. Applying the dark, we also are going to be triggering that somewhat frequently. If we get something like every time you play Insane, you apply dark as well. So that's something I was hoping to get, and just do a little bit of extra dark damage whenever we get the chance. Everybody here has a really good level up except for Sylvie. Yeah, Sylvie has a useless level up. Heiner gets cheaper defense cards. Nez gets refund on skill cards, and Magnus also gets cheaper defense cards, which are also going to be his most damaging cards. Sylvie, I got her more bleed and sight on hit, which is only going to really apply for Harley, and if she gets any like pebble items where she does an attack with an item, because that's all I'm allowing. Remember, no direct deal damage cards in the deck. Let's pause a little bit longer. I was expecting to have a ring here to corrupt like COLDBONE, or any weapon I had, but I actually didn't have a weapon, and I was really scared about this fight because he likes to transfer all his curses to us, so I was super worried that that was going to ruin my day. The other thing, what I didn't expect about this fight was actually that his very scary phase is right now after he goes on his first round, where he powers himself up every time he takes a hit, but we never actually hit. Again, item damage never procs on hit effects, so the only time we hit was with Sylvie's Harley, because she always hits the back with the owl. Once I got up Steelforge, I was pretty certain we were going to be okay. All the bleed that he transferred over to Magnus, we were able to take care of with Dispel on Nez, and yeah, things are going pretty good. The slows that we apply to ourselves aren't too bad. The fact that they're getting rid of wet is really annoying. It's definitely making the fight take a little bit longer than it otherwise would. The D-Shackles, again, comes in kind of clutch. Mainly because it allows us to reorder whenever we need to. And yeah, nothing else is too scary. Twilight Swamp, again, being good here. It is a spell, not a skill, so we don't get a cost reduction on it in Nezgalek's deck, but that's usually pretty okay. And at this point, we're killing with Barricade already, things like 14 block, and he does nothing to get rid of our thorns charges. The mage that he does have with him at the start does reduce curse charges, I believe, but he himself can't really do anything about it, I don't think. Or maybe he does do something about it and it's really annoying. Either way, we get enough thorns. Yeah, I feel like we're a little bit low for round 4 on Sylvie, and things work out. He attacks us and dies, so really good Ratatone fight. Wasn't expecting to do it, but now that we did do it, I can actually pick up Black Deck on Nezgalek, which is pretty sweet. I take Shield Stance on Heiner because it's just a cheaper guard in the long run. It costs the same to play a guard from the upgraded Shield Stance, so pretty good option. The Black Deck is going to give us more block charges. I don't want Frostfire Ring on Magnus, even though he is applying a lot of chill, because that would get rid of all the wet charges that we're using. Horned Helmet was an interesting option. Black Deck is going to allow us to play dark with these curse cards that it puts into our hand every time we play something, a spell card. Yeah, that's what it is. And everything else is not too interesting. Can't take any like frost weapons on Magnus, of course, because the weapon that he has is Coldbone Goblet. Frozen Heirloom, I wanted to use it in some way because it looked really cool. Whenever you apply Insulate, recovers plus 2% HP, but we don't have any mages, and mages are the class that applies Insulate mostly, so nothing here. Here I'm like highlighting, I really wanted to get Elven Curious. I'd love to be able to get Elven Curious on the same run that you can get Coldbone Goblet, but sadly they're in 2 different locations on the same map, so there's just no way to get both of them in the same run. Which is kind of a shame, because like you'd think if you're making a reinforced build you'd want to go all the way, you just can't. Here I fight a monk. Monks are really, really scary to me. Monks have a piercing through shield proc, or like a damage thing that they do. They get rid of Fortify, and they also transfer curses from themselves to others. So basically, monks are super anti-stall enemies, and fighting a corrupted one here is kind of scary. There's a lot of close calls on this run. I did cut out a few deaths in some of the battles, mainly because this took a long time. Here, I think I retried at one point to try to save Nesglect. That damage just is a really high damage, and the monk transferred all the bleed to Sylvie. Sylvie dies instantly from the bleed, so yeah, we were going pretty well without getting too many death stores in the deck, but here we are again. A lot of death stores. Thankfully, all the enemies are looking to die this turn, other than the fact that the shieldy boy healed himself. Would love to take Deja Vu, just can't. Here we do get to fight the dragon, slowing down the footage just a little bit again. Not too much, apparently. Again, we do have like an 8-hour run to go through, so I apologize if it's a little fast for anybody who's trying to follow along. I'm trying to keep up with it as best I can myself, but I do want to get through at a relatively good point. We were able to play 24 Dark to the dragon at the very first turn, which is pretty nice. Means we're going to be able to get rid of him eventually. Serenity Ring, someone mentioned it in chat. Getting regen every time you apply Barrier would be a fun little thing to get, but that's mainly if you're doing Otis builds and having a lot of block. Otis might work well for this run as well, like outside of like using Nesglect. Again, the reason I use Nesglect is to make the thorns damage go through more. But I suspect there's a few other variants of this you can do as long as you're making maximal use of the cold bone damage. It is very, very important, mainly in the very late stages of the game. Cold bone, like I said, unnecessary up until handshek. I was able to get there on a very, very sad run. So, yeah. That said, Barricade's starting to do some good damage. Does like 21 damage every cold bone proc now, which means that Barricade will do about 84 damage. So fairly solid, all things considered. Like, given that we had no way to deal damage, excuse me, previously. Also, not proccing the on-hit effects on the dragon is another really nice benefit of this run. He does have a on-hit effect where he heals himself for quite a lot and gets more resistances and block every time you hit him, but we're not doing that, so no need to worry. Really, honestly, like, neuters his damage. There's a lot of things that this run kind of counters in a way that I didn't expect, and it was fun to see. The dragon also does a blizzard, like, mass AoE attack, which we get to kill him with quite often. Poisonous Blood, I'm looking at a lot because it's really good if we get the Viper Ring. You can transform all the bleed into poison, which then transforms all that poison into bleed again, so you just basically get as much bleed as there is poison, or you can double it up if you get the 1.5 version or the purple version that doubles it. So very, very strong if you have that one ring, which I was looking for. Freezing Ink, I realized would be good on Nesglect because he could have a few more books, but it wouldn't be that many more. Heiner can at least take it. It will apply a little bit more cold and a little bit more wet to all the enemies. Makes him have a source of damage. Clairvoyant Scroll was really interesting to me. As well as Detox Potion. Clairvoyant Scroll, I'm like, man, I could actually deal some damage with this thing, right? If I play enough spells, like, and I get a corrupted version, it'd be super good. Never Frost Ring, don't need that on Magnus anymore. We don't worry about applying chill every turn. If we're going to be applying it with the Frostbone, Coldbone Goblet, that's what it is. That's what it's called. Sorry. Like, mine's gone a little bit blank here for a second. I'm going to take a little pause and I'll be right back. Alright, getting back into it. We are at the Act 3 in the Firetown. Our shop is kind of cool, but again, we have some injuries to get rid of. Unfortunately, we got those death doors in that fight right before the final boss. Like I said, Monk's scary. Here I'm going to show off all the decks as they were at the end of Act 2, and then I'll show off all the decks at the end after I've done my shopping and whatever else you do in town, you know? Blood Rains, I'm looking to take out of Magnus's deck because I want to have more reinforce. So again, feel free to pause if you want to see these decks at all in detailed order. I'm just scrolling through them so you can pause. Keep Caltrops. Caltrops is very nice for applying Thorns to the whole team. Here, you can see I get rid of all the Blood Rains in Magnus's deck. We keep them in Heiner because they are one of our main ways of damage scaling. And I briefly consider going through the middle route here. Middle route, we could get another pet trainer. Again, for the same reason, I just didn't want to upgrade Oculi, though I didn't want to fight a Monty either. Monty's really annoying. We don't really have a way of focusing Monty, and Monty is a classic, like, will summon until you're dead enemy. They summon, like, every turn after round 1. I think. Well, actually, I think round 4 they also skip a summon turn. I don't know why. And then those bunnies summon like every turn up to round 4, or the round 4 after they were summoned. So basically, bunnies scale out of control if they are left to their own devices, and it's terrifying. Like I said, without a way to focus them, it's a little bit difficult to deal with. Thankfully, the bunny does deal a bit of damage to himself every time he attacks, and just like all the rest of these enemies, and we are able to deal damage to all the enemies at around the same pace. We're not killing anything too quickly. So we really have that going for us on this fight, but it kind of comes down to a bit of luck. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to say about it than that. Like, if the bunny summons, we're dead, in a way. Though we will stack up so many thorns that eventually those bunnies will kill themselves pretty quick on us as we like continue scaling through the fight. We're getting a lot of bleed on Heiner. Quite scary. We need him to transfuse. There's a big reason that we picked up a transfuse very early on. I did fail to mention that, but transfuse is one of your friends. You want a lot of ways to get rid of bleed, as a lot of enemies tend to bleed. Thankfully, the bunny attacked Heiner like 3 times, and that was 42 thorns on him, so it was enough to take him out. Bunny's not terribly resistant, especially with like 4 or 5 vulnerable on him, or whatever he had. So, again, not really having energy problems in anybody else's deck outside of Heiner's, it looks like. Nezglect is also feeling really good after his skill energy perk. Another Dispel Magic seems good. Another Barricade, we finally find one. Magnus starts with one in the deck, and we bought one in town, but we finally got another one. It is unfortunately the wrong one. It doesn't apply the Reinforce. So that was a little bit sad to me. But nonetheless, it is still a Barricade for down the line, which is going to be great. Something else I didn't consider early on, but friendly Discord mod ended up chatting with me while I was doing this run a lot of the time, and mentioned that Battle Shout was very good because it also applies Reinforce the entire team, and they're right, it is very good. Definitely something I should consider. I don't think I got any other options to take it on the entire run, but if it does come up for you, definitely take it whenever you get the chance, no matter what time it is in the run, if you're attempting to do this very run, which you're welcome to try. It actually went fairly smoothly. This was my first time running it with this exact composition. I think so. I think that's right. There were like 2 or 3 hours on the stream where like I was trying out different things and it was failing. So I was trying to remember if this run was successful from the get-go or not, but I think it was. Dispel here, very nice. Yeah, now that we have like Mass Dispel in Nezglect's deck, which we got at the end of the dragon fight, we're looking pretty good. Any enemies that attack the whole team in AoE, we're not too afraid of anymore. Things like the Scarabs, we're really not looking to kill ever because they just can't be focused down by us. So yeah, they're not going to be providing value at any time. Thankfully, they also aren't slowing down our fight because really, like, what would we be doing anyways? We're still waiting for these enemies to kind of kill themselves. The back enemy here is one of the reasons I didn't want to go full in on the Dark team. He is immune to Dark. It's just kind of annoying. You can kind of kill him with spikes and COLDBONE and stuff. Man, I wanted that spike shield on Heiner. Barbed Wire is good though. It does apply thorns to the entire team, which we are still making use of. I got free moves here, which is nice. Saves me some money, which I don't have a lot of. Finally getting rid of that Foresight in Nezglect's deck. Thank goodness. Entrench is another card that does give Reinforce the entire team when it's upgraded, but it's very expensive for what you're getting out of it. I mean, you're getting a lot of block, but we don't really care about that block. We're doing fine with that, so it's not really great in Magnus's deck. It does apply Fortify for Heiner, though, so it's nice to keep up our Fortify charges. Squirrel goes pretty fast. Thankfully, Magnus is able to provide us with speed control still. We don't have a particularly fast team, but Magnus is just a base really fast character. So lowering his speed was something we could do fairly easily, and he and Sylvie get to go first a lot of the time, which is kind of nice because it lets us stack up some of that block before Heiner gets to go. Heiner's starting block is usually decent, but it definitely doesn't block like all of an enemy's, like all 4 enemy turns like damage. So adding a bit of block on top of that typically does get out the first turns pretty smoothly. Sorry, it gets us past the first turns pretty smoothly. This arena fight was something I wasn't worried about at all, so I'm not really commenting on it. I kind of felt like I had this in the bag. The spider's annoying, mosquitoes are annoying, but none of these guys summon. They're all relatively easy enemies to take on by themselves. Spiders is the tankiest of them all. And he doesn't attack all the time. Adding hatches just makes the fight go on a little bit longer, but with things like fortune telling or scry, we can get rid of the hatches. Push forward is kind of good. Spike shield's also kind of good. It was a rough choice to choose between the two. Innervate, I figured I was going to need in the late game for Magenus, because we want Magenus to have all the energy so he can play all the barricades, or whatever else he gets, like battle shouts, which can be expensive, or even in trenches if I'm desperate. Things like Stockade are also good, applying thorns to the entire team. Again, definitely not as good in Magnus's deck in the later stages of the game, once his Cold Frostbone Goblet is doing more. What is going to enable him doing a lot more damage, I'll talk about in this fight because it's a good time too, is his Thunderclap. Thunderclap gives him plus 200% damage to all damage until he plays an attack. If you never play an attack, he gets that damage buff forever. So a Coldbone Goblet will always be doing plus 200% damage. Plus 200% damage is the equivalent of, at base stats, I want to say 40 powerful. If you have the perk that makes it 10%, well, then it would just be 100 power or 10 powerful. 10 powerful? No, it'd be 20 powerful. So very, very strong. On a weak damage card like Frostbone Goblet, it doesn't do a whole ton, but when you consider that's being stacked up in any ways, like by like Bless or something like that, or just where he gets his level 5 perk where he gets to increase all damage by plus 7, very, very good indeed. Battle Shout, again, wish I got it on Magnus. Burning Blood was an interesting one for me. I do get to have Fury on Magnus if I take it. Increasing Magnus's Fury damage was something I did consider. I think I have him at like higher Fury damage. I might not though. I didn't think I was going to need it like super badly, but you can get to 100 Fury, which will let him be at plus 300% more damage, so he could be at plus 500% damage, at which point you're getting this like 14 damage Coldbone Goblet to do some significant work. It unfortunately doesn't add on the damage the way you'd like it to with Wet. Wet charges add on after the fact, so it'll never be like you're getting like plus 50 from the Wet charges, and that's getting modified by plus 500%, making it be like 250 damage a pop. No, it doesn't do that. Wet's very similar to Mark in that way, or Crack, which is one of the reasons that self buffs are much better than the buffs on, or the debuffs on enemies like Mark and stuff. Taurus, not too hard for us. He does like to attack the entire enemy team 3 times. Unfortunately, we are unable to kill him before he summons his little friend here. It's just something that we can't really deal with because we're mainly relying on him killing himself. Coldbone Goblet did do a lot of damage to him after we got a lot of Wet charges on the enemy. Again, plus 50 damage a pop is really good if you're doing it like 4 times in a single card, and we can play like 3 of those cards a turn, so, you know, that's like hundreds of damage in a single turn, but they have to have Wet charges on them first, and they need to be somewhat weak to the Frost, which we really can only do by applying the negative Frost resistances on them, or Nezglek's level 2 perk card. Not perk card, but level up card. Eventually, though, to get through the fight, we're actually getting on to Greats at this point. Garden of Thorns is something I could eventually double Thorns, so I do take it. It does apply Thorns to the entire enemy team. I just really wanted to get a purple version where we could double Thorns on the entire enemy team. Here's where I ended up taking a break and coming back to the run on a later day because it got very late. So you may see me looking at my cards a little bit more or playing a little bit slower because I kind of forgot like what the deck was doing exactly. Pretty good. We take the Ironclad here. It's not really going to affect us too much. The physical resistances we don't care about. The health is very minor in comparison to the rewards we could potentially get here, so might as well give it to them and get a little bit extra. Steelforge. I can't really overstate how crucial Heiner is to builds like these. He is definitely the best block tank in the entire game. He just really helps on stall teams. Steelforge is probably like the best level 2 card in the entire game. If you're looking at a way to win on like higher madness difficulties. There's other like really good ones, and of course like Steelforge will never come up if you're playing like a meta OTK build on like high scoring runs where you're killing all enemies on like turn 1 or 2 every single time, because they're not really hitting you too much. But if you are playing teams where you take hits and you fight, because you're not playing some of the more meta champions that can reduce monster speeds and buff yourself up to ridiculous degrees, then yeah, Steelforge saves your life. It gives you at least like 2 or 3 extra turns of a fight where you can safely just stand there and take it. Man, Heiner's so crucial to runs like these. He really saved me in my all attack run as well, where I did allow level up cards because that run would be impossible without it. I think. I don't know. Again, if someone else has done that without any of the level up cards, I would love to see it, because that would be truly impressive and awesome, and I would love to learn from them. Still a lot I can learn about this game. Definitely learning a lot when I was playing with GA. It was great. It was fun. It was really fun doing the meta builds on the take no damage run. Definitely a very like far cry from this run where we're like just struggling to go through every fight. As you see, we do take a lot of damage from statuses over time. The Knights are also one of the guys who are fairly annoying to us. They deal damage to us through our block equal to our thorns, which we are applying a ton of on ourselves. Thankfully, he doesn't do it again this turn. I believe there's a chance for him to have done it twice already, but he only did it once, which is why we took a ton of damage, but we ended up surviving. If he does it in the later rounds, we kind of just insta-die, because it's a double damage proc, and yeah, it hurts a lot. So otherwise, we would have taken no damage in this fight, because we had blocked the whole time. It's funny that now Torment of Thorns is coming up on the run like this, but we got a good shot out of this. Continuum Blade, useless, but Mixed Salad is an extra draw on Magenus every single turn. And not to mention we could like remove curses or dispel some stuff or transfer a curse, whatever. Really great. Handbook is also really good. Reduce the cost of your highest skill card in your hand by 2 until discarded. Sapphire Ring would also have been really nice. Here we do get our level up. Faded Future was something I wanted to get on Nesglect because it just seemed like reducing the highest cost card in hand could be funny. Chosen One, we're not playing a ton of spells, but we could play some and get some vulnerable on enemies, so I thought that would also be good. Really tough choice for me here with Nesglect. I didn't even see what I took there. And here's the Thunderclap. Again, it does deal damage. It is a card that deals damage. We don't have any of those in our deck outside of Thunderclap at this point, but we will never play an attack, so it never will actually deal damage. Another reason I chose all these heroes is because none of their cards that I was picking on level up actually dealt direct damage themselves. So, yeah. Here, I wanted to show that I was going for the anvil. I did fail. I put up a backup save at the very front of the cave, so I'm going to spare you guys from that. That is something I tried on the live stream. Wanted to get anvil. Anvil's really cool. Lets you get fortify every time you play a card. Specifically, also lets you get reinforce every time you play a card. Is an armor, so Magnus would be playing a ton. Like, she'd just get so much reinforce every single turn, and it would ramp up his damage like a ton more. There is a way to manipulate it by taking different cards at the end of the second fight, but I was on stream, and also I don't really want to grind that hard for that long. Even though I do want to get Anvil at some point, so I will probably do it eventually just for the unlock, because I've still never unlocked that card. Probably on a run where it's actually good, but it was fun doing... it was fun giving it a shot and then not having it succeed. Now COLDBONE Goblet's going to start doing a lot more damage. You can see it's getting like 42 a proc on Reinforce, so really, really solid stuff here. I know these fights are happening really fast. I do promise you that it will be a lot slower in the final fight because I will be playing it at 100% speed with my actual commentary from the live stream, which I think was pretty insightful for how how to pilot the deck and how I was feeling. I did notice as I was rewatching the live stream me making a few mistakes in terms of card order or like what I could have done to fully pop off on a turn, but you know, mistakes happen. What are you gonna do? Wolfguard is kind of funny. Every time I play Wolfguard, like, I want it to be on Magnus, but Magnus doesn't take enough damage. Like, he never gets directly hit, so it's not going to apply the reinforce the way I want it. So usually I just put it on somebody else to keep them alive. Sylvie actually using Hawksight here is kind of funny. Vigilances are now kind of decent because they apply more bleed every time I apply Sight. Look at that. Look at that skeleton just healing up so much. I don't even know what he did, but he healed. Doesn't really matter because we healed all our damage off too. And then Coldbone Goblet actually is doing some work towards the end there. All the wet charges are great. Entomb is another card I really want to make use of. It's a spell, so it does proc Black Deck, which is one nice thing about it. It applies 17 Dark. You have to discard a card to do it, but like, it's not good. It's not really worth it, but I need to take it. Here, don't worry, I did remember to slow down the game speed so you can follow along and see if you can guess where the golden shards went. This is worth 1,500 gold and shards for the team. Did I say 1,500? I meant 1,200. 1,200 golden shards for the entire team, which is a lot of money and shards to get. I did notice it there. I was pretty sure it was on the right, and I was right. Did check my video because I needed to make sure I have the money from that. Here, I wanted to analyze the statues, but it does put a curse in Heiner's deck, which is the Heat Laser, or the improved Heat Laser, which does deal direct damage. Yeah, it was very sad having to remove Heiner and Sylvie's, like, starting cards. At least we got to keep Magnus's Captain's Owl, you know? And applying that 4 vulnerability matters so much the entire run, just because it matters for the thorns damage that we're doing, and it matters for the frost damage that we're doing. It also matters for the dark damage that we're doing, so lots of good. A lot of the times Nezglek's turns aren't too strong because we're sort of doing a hybrid build where he just is meant to keep us alive on long fights, and if he goes early then the dispels aren't going to do too much. When he goes later it's usually the best for us. One of the other nice things about Curse Card is it does apply Insanity, which Insanity is how Nezglek's passive heals us. So yeah, let's keep a little bit more alive there. The darkness did pop on the middle guy with the drill, which you can see actually did some stuff, so Nezglek's contributing. He's doing his part. Burning Blood, not going to be super useful right now. Once I get a way to have more Fury, I was really hoping for like a Gladiator helmet or something like that. Then Magnus can start to get more bleed on himself just without the help of enemies, or I could transfuse the bleed onto myself from the enemies and do a Burning Blood and then just have a lot more Fury, which will start getting that damage up real high real fast. And look at that, we even popped that final guy with the Dark, so I guess win a turn early. I got Entrench upgraded there. I did want to take it because I figured that would be nice for the late game. Dilute is an interesting one for me. I wanted to pick it up because I figured I could eventually turn Poison into Wet and then pick up a Baptism to turn that Wet into Bless on Magnus. And like I mentioned before, having the Bless is a lot more worth it than having the Wet charges on the enemies because it does get powered up by our Powerful and our Fury. So it'll let him do a ton more damage, which we need all the damage we can get because remember our damage is random and we need to kill all the clones of Handshek before they heal up and dispel everything that we've done to both Handshek and themselves. They can literally just win the fight by themselves. They're the only thing that stands in the way of this run and complete and total victory. You could, of course, get extremely unlucky and just like all the early turns, you target Handshek with the Coldbone damage, at which point you don't have the wet charges. The clones can also start to purge your heroes, so they could get rid of your Bless, they could get rid of your Fury and Powerful, and make your life just really, really difficult. This entire run was built up to me fighting the clones. Like, they are the true final boss of this run. And I knew if I could get past them, if I could have gotten past them on the last run that I did, without dealing any direct damage really, then I know I could have beaten the Archon. Enemies deal def damage to themselves on thorns that you can and you can survive long enough with cards like Citadel or Steelforge and stuff like that. But without that, it's just not possible. Mass Dispel ends up being really useful here. We get rid of all the fire, we get rid of all the debuffs that they've been doing. The front flame thing is really annoying. It actually gets rid of a lot of our block instantly. That's like taunting here was also really unfortunate. Normally Heiner can taunt with like his heat laser or improved laser at this point, but couldn't take that. So yeah, man, that extra barricade that doesn't have reinforce really is hurting me right now. And you can also see the random damage is hurting me. We're not really taking out anything at this point. Nesglect is one of our few saving graces of being able to actually kind of like take out specific enemies or at least deal more direct damage to them. The bleed, though, is really ramping up. The bleed blob, or blood blob, is doing a lot of work on this run in the background. Thankfully, we're able to keep Nesglect alive. We got enough thorns on him that the massive attack, like the rapid fire rockets there, did kill that back cannon. Now the front cannon's no longer reducing our block, so we're going to be able to keep up block for a long time. And the middle chassis itself is never going to be able to do enough to get through all of our block and healing. So I was pretty confident in winning the fight at this point. The bleed and poison are also slowly ramping up, even though we're not through all of its block and we're not killing them with COLDBONE here. We are doing a really good job just winning this run in general. So yeah, we actually almost get the kill through COLDBONE. That was 390 damage through block. Block doesn't get any resistances from enemies, so not really too impressive, but still, it's nice to get. Moment of Peril here, I figured it would be good because I could pick up any healing spell I want, and there's some really good top tier healing spells in the game. So I end up picking it up, even though I'm not really like a full healer. We do get the Porcupine, so we do get to have Quill Rain on Sylvie, which is kind of fun. We also have the Wall on Heiner, gives him +7 block charges, +1 more Fortify charge, as well as 25% resistances, all you could really ask for, at the cost of 3 speed, but that's fine. Heiner was never going first anyways, so we're doing pretty okay. Still looking for that other Clairvoyant Scroll. Man, did I want that. I wanted that so badly. Berserk Potion, I really had to debate here whether I wanted an extra draw for Magnus or whether I wanted the Berserk Potion to give 2 Fury every turn. I opt for the extra draw. The extra draw is usually going to be more impactful, and I hope to just get more, like another way to get Fury later on. Again, Thorns doesn't really matter here. Access to a rare equipment shop, we do have a lot of money because we went through the middle route where we picked up the 1200 gold and shards, and we're actually finishing fights fairly fast. COLDBONE damage is really starting to ramp up. Every time we draw the Thunderclap early, we actually just really put on a lot. So the bird here is also normally pretty annoying. They, on top of the thorns that Rose Garden adds, the bird adds like 12 more thorns on the entire enemy team, or what, that was like 9 more, whatever. So any AoE attacks here would have been devastating. Really glad that we didn't upgrade Oculi to purple because that would have been a huge pain. Can't wait to change that barricade to apply reinforce, something that would have been really nice. The back guy was something I was afraid of because they do apply Purge 5 to an enemy, or sorry, to one of our heroes. So they'll be getting rid of our Fortify, which is a bit annoying. I do have the Fortify stacking perk on Magnus. I think I took that off on the perk pages that I ended up saving, mainly because that was useless. So no need to follow that. It doesn't do anything for you to have extra Fortify charges stacking up. Not like we're dealing fire damage here. Though I did have an odd idea. No, never mind. Didn't have an odd idea. Moving on. One of the things that makes this fight normally kind of annoying is the taunt on the bird put on there by the cat, and the cat gives the bird like 8 zeal and then slows down the enemy, so then like that enemy just has like 95% resistances to everything. But thankfully we don't care about taunt. All our damage is always randomly selected. But through an item, so it's like true random. Find Weakness is a card. It does apply vulnerability. I am lacking in vulnerability at the moment. We get another upgraded Mass Dispel, which is really nice. Shoulder pads I did consider, but I wanted the speed on Sylvie, and moreover, I just didn't want to spend 1200 gold on something that was kind of just a mediocre upgrade. Not terrible, but not amazing. Metal Blob here, kind of cool. You gain block and you apply crack to all monsters, but like, I don't really have a use for it. Not doing any blunt. Here we could have more gold and shards, or we could have 2 card remove. Card remove is gold value. Yeah, like it's about 80 gold a pop to remove cards at Act 4. So it's actually a fair bit of gold value. Really was whether or not I could do this or... sorry, that was a free upgrade, not card roof. My bad. So yeah, you can get a lot of shard value if you're upgrading like some rare cards, which I did think I wanted to upgrade some rare cards. So we could get like thousands of value in shards there. Could still be worth it to get the gold and the shards. There might be items in Act 4 that I really want to buy. We're still looking for some really strong items. There's a lot of late game things that help, like Nullifier or adding Powerful to the entire team and increasing the Powerful cap. Stuff like that really does stack up for us. This fight's a little bit annoying. It just lasts a while. The Pyromancer does all fire damage on everybody. Thankfully, we do somehow focus down the the Pyromancer, both with the Dark on Nezglek, so we actually do like 100 extra damage to him, and the reinforced COLDBONE damage went mainly onto him for some reason. I don't know why, but it was helpful. And it didn't go onto the front guy at all, so it was just pretty useful. He also doesn't have the best cold resistance, even though he does have Insulate on himself. So one of the reasons we were able to take him out. So dark damage ended up being pretty nice just for finishing fights probably like a round or two earlier, because we were able to eliminate some really nasty enemies probably like 1 or 2 rounds earlier than we would have otherwise, and they could have healed or done more stuff to delay the fight. Not that the Pyromancer is one of those. We're really in no danger of being one-shot anymore. We're applying more than enough block to the entire team. We're also dispelling enough stuff almost all the time now. And at this point, I'm like, man, can we actually kill this Jade Scarab? Maybe. It's got a lot of evasion, but evasion I don't think matters for our COLDBONE damage. And we're able to take it out, so we get an extra 50 gold and shards per hero, which is pretty nice. Tactical thinking doesn't really offer much here, aside from vigilance, so I was like, maybe I take it. It does apply bleed to the entire team when I apply sight, and I have Sylvie's level 4 enchantment up. We get Enrage on Magnus. Enrage is also one of our main ways of getting Fury, so that was the nice free upgrade that we were getting there. Find Weakness, we can have more Vulnerable. I can make it cost 1 because Sylvie just doesn't have energy issues right now. She just never has energy issues. Starting with a Trace in her opening hand is really nice as well. Vigilance in the opening hand, not so nice. I really needed to upgrade that to get rid of, or to draw. Getting Thunderclap here is great. I'm not scared of Ignito because we are going to have wet charges applied to ourselves all the time. So he's not going to be healing himself up too much. We're also going to have wet charges to him. So he just can't heal himself up that much. That's all that I'm really saying. We are also able to Mass Dispel here, get a few extra buffers so that we're not taking what's called damage. Extra burn damage. And being reduced in resistance to his burn, which Meteor Shower is really scary for us. We don't have a lot of block on Heiner. We kind of got like a semi-unfortunate turn, where we got a lot more of the support cards first. Thankfully, we were able to slow down Ignito here, and Heiner can now block for himself. We have a Healing Rain, but we don't have any fire on us, but I figured we were going to kill him fast enough that I wasn't too worried about it. We also were able to pop him with Entomb, which is kind of nice. Does a little bit of extra damage there, like a good 100. Man, the damage numbers go fly by fast. Wish those were slowed down a little bit. Twilight Swamp here, also very good. Applies wet to all of us, so the more wet we have on all of us, the less burn charges we're going to have next turn. Same with him, if he has any wet charges on himself. He is going to Shackles Magnus, which is really annoying, but we do have that Helping Hand in Heiner's deck that I'm hoping that we can draw. We are able to reduce his resistances now, so we're doing solid there. We did get the Helping Hand, which I knew could come up because it was just we hadn't drawn it yet. We're also able to add some Fury on Magnus now, so look at that. Oh, the damage, 133 per reinforced. If that last barricade was the correct barricade upgrade, he'd be dead already, but he's going to die when he attacks us, and we are going to get a Excellent. Oh my gosh, it feels great to get Excellent. Another Mass Dispel and another Enrage. The third Mass Dispel seems a little bit much to me, but I mean, honestly, it's just very good for stall fights. Ballad of Conquest is funny, but I don't have a way to get Stanza. It is blessed for Magnus, which is why I want to take it. And then I take the Entomb on Nezglek, because I'm like, you know what's better than 1 Entomb? 2 Entombs. No, seriously, it's a bad card. It also vanishes, by the way. Terrible card. I mean, I'm sure it has some use, and there's an upgraded version of it that could do like some amount of dark. It is one of the higher dark charges in the entire game, but like there's just so many better ways of applying dark that it will probably never be the way to do it. Here I do have to debate whether I want overheat or not, but I opt for the base damage on frost and the more charges on chill. We are going to go through the middle because the middle gets us a chest, and I want to look at the goodies. We get very, very, very lucky here and find a Mirror of Cassandra. Mirror of Cassandra, the first card you play every turn gets copied. We give that to Magnus straight away. Don't care about his draw anymore. I did like having the extra draw, but man, playing 2 barricades for the price of 1 is very strong in terms of our damage at this point. Not to mention everything else that we could do with a copied card, like playing more Enrages and stuff. Again, going through all our decks. These are all the decks at the start of the Act 4. And we're going to fast forward and show all the decks at the end of my shopping spree. Mirror of Cassandra, unfortunately, did limit how many cards I could remove from my decks, so do have quite fat decks here. I also just wasn't quite sure what to get rid of, and I didn't want to spend too much time on stream, like, mulling it over, because I felt like I was in a really good position. Transfuse is probably decent on Magnus here. I have the Transfuse where I can steal bleed from enemies, and I have the Burning Blood where I can turn that bleed into Fury. That is one of the reasons I took it. One of the best ways for him to get Fury at this very moment. So we'll see the Mirror Cassandra come up, and we're getting close to the end of the run here, folks. Do you have to debate whether I want to fight the beaver on the bottom or the beaver on the top? Beavers I was actually very scared of. And for good reason. The beaver is a enemy that applies a lot of wet, and anytime that we apply wet, it makes use of those charges by turning that wet into bless for all the enemies. And some of these enemies are very damaging, and I wasn't sure I could kill them fast enough. So it was one of those weird cases where I was like, man, do we play all these wet cards? I'm not sure, because like wet is how we deal damage faster, but also it'll help them deal damage faster. So like, can we kill them before they get to get bless out of it? That was the real question. You can see they all have like 34 wet charges on them right now, which again, it's going to help us deal a lot more damage, but the beaver also heals them all, so it makes it even harder to kill them. And then next turn, they're going to get bless charges, and that is very, very scary. So yeah, I accidentally played a wrong card there, so I had to reset just briefly on the turn. We steal the bleed. We then turn that bleed into Fury on Magnus, so he now has 28 Fury, doing a lot more damage, as you can see, but doesn't quite focus down any particular enemy, which is a tad bit unfortunate for us. I'll try to go over all the new tricks I added to my deck as I see them come up in this run. Still have Transfuse on Heiner, because getting rid of the bleed was useful. We're still very scared of the Lancer, because Lancer hits us through the block, and with 49 bless, actually up to 50 bless, he unfortunately kills us, because that is a double damage card. So yeah, did have to worry about the Lancer quite a bit. That 50 bless on him, very, very strong, very scary. It does prove that we're not out of the woods just yet. Enrages on Magnus are going to be... I bought some so that we could have more Fury later on. It's going to be our main way of really increasing the damage on this run further than it is. I still have the Dilute gets rid of poison, and transforms that poison into wet charges. And then I have Sylvie's Toxic Rains apply to our team as well, because again, wasn't really thinking with my noggin here, and I didn't realize I could turn that Dilute into get rid of bleed and turn that into wet. And because I was like, oh, I'm going to be transforming the bleed into fire with burning blood, so it's not going to be that good. Like, why would I even bother? No, really should have used my noggin there. We did get a battle shout finally, thanks to the helpful commenter. We're also able to kill the guy in front, so we don't really have to worry about our wet charges that we're applying to the entire enemy team at this point, because they can't hit us through block anymore, and we have 400 blocks, so even with a bunch of bless, we'd be fine. We also have the beaver going last, so everything's working out just dandy for us now. I do apply that stealth just to get a little bit of extra damage on Magnus, and look at that damage he's dealing. get another Enrage. Honestly, this run's starting to get very lucky. I remember that Setup is a card that exists for Sylvie, and I'm like, man, why didn't I have Setup earlier on Sylvie? That could have done, you know, things like giving me more Thorns. I don't know. Honestly, wouldn't have been that helpful because Sylvie's just looking for Thorns cards. Yeah, we are going to go fight the Black Constructs. They are the one that we have the key for, so we can get over the bridge and hopefully get some really good items that way. Got Thunderclap in our opening hand. Not much more we could ask for. We also got Enrage that gives us Fury. I have an Enrage that gives us Powerful, which is not really the best for me, but it's okay. Magnus, unfortunately, being the only one unstealthed, did take a lot of damage there. And I was hoping that I could just heal it up with Nezglect and give him enough block in the later game that it wasn't going to matter. But, yeah. The Lancer be Lancin'. He does apply that damage to our block, which thankfully he does it very early on, so we didn't have too many Thorns on us just yet. And we are really scaling up our damage now. I did believe in Magnus's damage after Act 3, so I really went all in on the COLDBONE damage, which, like, I knew that I needed it, but I didn't know, like, how much I needed it or how much I could go all in on it until, like, getting here, if you know what I mean. Like, it took me playing this entire run to figure it out for some reason. I couldn't tell you why. But yeah, that barricade, you can see, took out 400 health all by itself, so very, very solid. I debated getting another Baptism here. Baptism could be very solid. Said solid twice. Sorry, just little commenting things I'm noticing. Because it does allow us to have more turns of having Baptism on a turn that we need it. This guy's always going after Magnus at this point, so we're playing a lot of Reigns before that. Armageddon is scary to me, but only because there's a monk that we're ending up fighting here, and the monk's going to be getting rid of our reinforce. So otherwise, I'm not too scared of Armageddon because I can block it. You know, anything I can block the damage of at this point is like kind of a non-threat. Thankfully, we're able to apply a lot of frost to the front boy, so the front boy is going to be going quite slow on the next turn. So if our Fortify gets purged, we don't have to worry about him one-shotting us, which he does tend to do, especially because he's fairly fast. So speed manipulation actually ended up being pretty important on this run. Wouldn't undersell that either. We get like 100 block on everybody, which is pretty solid. All that block does go away. And the monk does a lot of damage, and our reinforced did get purged. No Steel Forge early on, does hurt. Poisonous Blood is an option there, but didn't really seem too strong. I'm able to get rid of the bleed on Magnus, turn that into Fury, which is nice. So we got a lot more damage coming up, but 11 health is not where I want to be. Thankfully, there is a way out. We just need to kill the monk in back. The monk is going to apply all his curses to us, so Nezglect really saved us there with his dark damage. Very solid Entomb picks. God, Entomb. What a card. It was like the one run I was like, maybe it's okay here because it doesn't deal damage. Yeah. Again, I just wasn't playing any cards that had deal damage text on them. But we are pretty low going into the next fight, something I'm a bit afraid of. Here we have a few good options, and Spark of Life is not one of them. Adrenaline, I was debating on Sylvie because I really wasn't having energy problems, so having more energy is not that great. Desperate Prayer, on the other hand, is +4 fast, and I might need that +4 fast to go faster than the clone in the Archon fight for Sylvie, and maybe do some speed manipulation there. At least that's what I was thinking. I should have gotten rid of the Stockade in Magnus's deck long ago. Another mistake on this run that I'm not living down. We do get to upgrade Divine Power here. We can upgrade to the Overcharge version if we wanted to, but I didn't. Overcharge version would probably be better on Nezglect. Could give Magnus more consistently. I wasn't too afraid of being at low HP here, though, because I was going to get a camp. Here we get some really good options. The Dark one would be funny on Nez, but we don't deal any damage with hits, so that's not too great. Gladiator Helmet, on the other hand, Gladiator Helmets was what I wanted to see. Also Golden Laurel. Every turn, all heroes gain 1 Inspire. It's kind of like a mini Straw Hat. Really, it's best on your hero that goes first because it does trigger on their turn. Also, Inspire gives all heroes more resistances and more healing received. So, very solid overall. Gladiator Helmet, so good for Magnus. We finally have a way to have Fury at the very start. Not to mention it gives some decent resistances. And we can make use of that Fury by hopefully getting an Infuriate, which I probably should have bought really early on, but I just kind of forgot it existed. So I don't have one in my deck currently. But yeah, Gold Laurel, great get. Means we're going to have like one extra draw on all our heroes every turn except for Sylvie, but Sylvie's not really like needed at this point in the run. Really, really great in our early game. She definitely made sure that a lot of the bosses like Belfour and what's his face, Yelmer died. Might not be completely necessary. Like you could probably replace her with another warrior and go with a different package here, but felt really good to me. And again, my main priority in all these fights is the monk. I did originally try the Armageddon fight here, and that failed. So I went to the save without it, because I just couldn't win against the Armageddon, and I didn't want to spend too much longer in the run. I didn't feel like I actually needed it to win, so it was kind of silly to take in the first place. This is why I do a lot of backup saves at this point, because I wouldn't want to have to do this run all over again. It would be very frustrating. I just don't have the time at this point in my life to do that. So here we are. We're able to take out the monk. No problem. It's just luck of the draw where COLDBONE goes, honestly. The mitigate's kind of a problem because COLDBONE doesn't deal a lot of base damage. So until we get like Bless and stuff on Magnus, we have a hard time dealing damage through mitigate. But once we get Blessed through Divine Power, you know, it kind of mitigates that mitigate. Ha. God, sorry. Let's see, I was having fun. And yeah, we can just do the damage to the big soldier there. Or sorry, knight. Wouldn't want to call him a soldier when he's a knight. Here, doubling bleed, honestly, just not good enough. We just need Magnus to have more and more reinforce. We are going to slow down the fight again just by, 100% of speed. I don't know. So instead of 400% speed, it's only 300% speed, triple instead of 4 times. Totally slow, right? Enrage should be Fury. We are getting enough powerful through other sources like Battle Shout and Divine Power at this point that we really don't need the extra powerful from the Enrage. Something that I should have considered a little bit earlier. So I'm just going over like all the ways I could potentially improve as I'm looking back at this. The twins I was a little bit worried about. They're another huge brick wall for a team like this. Although you can kind of stall them out somewhat effectively, if you're not dealing direct damage, you're not really taking out their block. The one saving grace is that they tend to do a triple attack on the front hero before they do their shield slam cards, where they deal damage based on their block, like by like 1.5 times or something like that, or something stupid, I don't know. Or I think it's just like one times their block, which can be up to like 400, given how much block they put on themselves. So it was a really tough fight when I had no direct sources of damage, like COLDBONE. But it's not that big of a fight once I do have the direct damage. Other than the fact that God, look at the damage. Look at the damage on round 2. We're almost getting through them. We don't have to worry about their retaliation either. Sorry, I swear I'll finish my thought at some point. But we don't have to worry about the retaliation. The retaliation here only triggers if you hit them, and COLDBONE, as we've discussed, does not hit. I don't know if Cold Rain does either. I don't think it should. And then, of course, we're not doing any like darkness. So, like I said about finding like weird counters that this run actually like works well for, and this run does counter. This is one of them. It's kind of fun. Yeah, not too much more to say outside of that. Reinforce is really nice to have on Heiner in case he does end up taking health damage. But as you see there, we got rid of a lot of his blocks, so then the shield slam afterwards that does damage to the entire team doesn't go through. One of the things that does make this run hard, this fight in particular hard, here's me finishing my thought by the way, is that they heal up by 2% for every card that you play, so you really have to manage the cards that you're playing if they're not dealing or contributing to the damage whatsoever. But at the same time, you need to survive the turns, so you need to block, you need to add thorns, and basically it just means that with very stally teams like this, you end up usually going pretty late into the rounds. I think I finished at like round 10 or 12 on like my no COLDBONE team, where I wasn't dealing any direct damage outside of like the energy shield, which was really, really bad God, it's so bad. I really wanted that item to be much better. I swear I'll mention it at the very end here and show you what that item is, but gosh, it's so bad. That said, we get an excellent on this fight because COLDBONE is awesome. We also get a Citadel. I really wanted to take the Citadel on Magnus because it's just kind of cool. We will be taking on Heiner for sure. It just gives us 5 mitigate on the entire team and a heap load of block. Unfortunately on Magnus, it doesn't apply reinforce, so I'm not taking it. We do get the extra energy for Heiner. We get corrupted Harley on Sylvie, so at least we'll have Harley in the final fight. And we get more Inspire on Neglect, very, very nice for us. Definitely was a consideration for me to put the draw card, the Inspire card on Neglect instead of Sylvie, but since he goes last, I didn't want to do that because it would mean that we don't have our extra draw on the first turn, but we'd have an extra draw on every turn after that. We also find a second Mirror of Cassandra here. I don't level up Magnus, by the way, because I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go, whether he needed energy or not, because I felt like it did. So now we have purple Mirror of Cassandra. It really just doubles the effectiveness of Mirror of Cassandra, so instead of an insane card, you have a super insane card. Really, really fantastic. We never did end up getting a purple Clairvoyant Scroll, something that saddens me greatly. So we take Meat here on Neglect. Meat here is great. It gives us an extra draw every turn, plus we can sometimes get a premium meat that can up our charges by 25% on a hero of our choosing. Heiner getting Mountain King is fantastic. It means that we can play that Citadel that we got a lot easier, because it'll make it so every time we play a defense card, it reduces the cost of the highest card in our hand by 2, and all we're really playing is defense cards. Yeah, so here we are in the final stretch, the Act 4.5, if you will. We do have a few more edits to make to our deck before we finally finish the game. I'll try to go over them to the best of my ability. I still don't take that damage perk on Magnus because I wasn't sure whether I needed energy or damage in the very end. I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. It was damage. Damage was better. Plus 7 damage on COLDBONE Goblet is just a lot of base damage. It's like 7, starting the fight with 7 bless. Very, very strong for us. These fights that were coming up, I wasn't too afraid of. Like, there's always like the chance I don't remember enemy attacks, but like I've been doing a lot of slow runs lately, so I kind of knew what all these enemies do. There's not a huge amount of variety in Act 4, or sorry, in Act 4.5 in particular. There's only really the champion variety, and yeah, this is not one of the scary ones for a team like this that just gets to block a whole lot. We still have that Desperate Prayer. Desperate Prayer is not going to be useful outside of the final fights. I get to organize Magnus's deck as best I can with Fortune Telling. We are able to take on Melancholy at this point, even though it gives them a lot of resistances and puts a lot of bad cards in our deck. I was super confident in how many wet charges we were applying per turn, and then how much Magnus was just gonna wreck face, especially with that Gladiator Helm. We get 16 Bless on Magnus. We have the 10 Fury. We have like 13 wet charges on all the enemies at this point. We don't get any more with Sylvie. We could have gotten a Toxic Rain there, but I thought it would be best to get rid of the Sadness. We don't have to worry about Retribution effects whatsoever. Very, very nice for us. The Knight there does do actually more damage than I was expecting. It definitely gave me a little bit of a scare. Here I was debating whether I want to double up on Rage to have more energy. One of the nice things about Mirror of Cassandra is it's giving us just a lot more options. But instead I opt to triple up on the barricades there, because I saw I was drawing into like 3 Sadnesses. So not really much point in not getting the barricades. That said, in getting the draw and energy doubled up on, because the barricades were just going to be the raw damage that we needed. And they really were. We took out 2 enemies. The last 2 enemies fall when Magnus gets to go again. Last Stand is cool. It does give us 3 defense cards from our draw pile and reduces their cost by 2. Barricade costs 2. Figured, what could be wrong with that? Could get another Moment of Peril, but I didn't think I needed it. I'm really checking out this deck right here. Again, if you want to check out any of these decks as I'm going through them, feel free to pause. This is your warning, I guess, if you were just listening on the side and following along. I was really debating between Sacred Ceremony there. Spike Shoulder Pads could have gotten again on Sylvie. It's kind of fun, but unnecessary. Berserker Claw, unfortunately we don't play any attacks, or rather we could play attacks. Blood Rain is actually an attack for whatever weird reason, but we don't need that on, like we could never do that on Magnus, so it's not really going to help on anybody else. Sylvie got Cloak of Speed on that other fight. I did mention the other items that we picked up from the twins, but Cloak of Speed was one. The whole reason I wanted to shop here, by the way, was this Viper Ring. Viper Ring does, for every poison charge you apply 1 bleed, so now we're going to turn all that bleed from the poisonous blood back into bleed and poison. Wait, is that how it works? Yeah, because poisonous blood transforms bleed into poison, which then adds more bleed back. We get Endless Bag on Heiner, draws 3. Could have had the spiked shoulder pads where we got a lot of thorns on Sylvie every turn, but I like that she's speed manipulating. Bastion on Heiner might have been okay. Still debating on whether I needed energy or weapons expert on Magnus. And talking to chat as well. So getting towards the final stretch, before the final boss, I am going to switch back to just the stream audio. So this will be the last of future me talking to you guys here. Outside of maybe coming back for the very end outro. Might just let myself do the outro at the end as well. We're getting rid of repair armors in Magnus's deck. Basically anything that doesn't apply a lot of reinforce to the entire team. Getting rid of it. I could have gotten rid of Wolfguard as well. Probably would have been worth it. Nesquik's deck is way too big. I just don't know what to get rid of. He kind of just has like a use for everything. We did take the Chosen One on him instead of Fate of Future because we aren't really getting expensive cards in anybody's deck. He does play some spells, and adding the vulnerability is going to help in the long run. We finally get rid of Transfuse because I just didn't feel like I needed it anymore. We had so much Dispel that like I also didn't feel like we needed this other Dispel magic. The Entombs, you know, they kind of proved their worth, so I was like, you know what, at this point I can't get rid of them. That's way too fun. They don't deal damage. They're perfect for the run. I mean, they kind of helped. They helped a little bit. Would we have been fine without them? Absolutely. But maybe they got us like a little bit of extra stuff going on. I don't know. We had like 3 Master Spells though in Nesquik's deck, so pretty sure I was fine. That's why I'm also getting rid of the Dispel in Heiner's deck. We really want to see Steel Forge as soon as possible so we don't die randomly. Probably could have gotten rid of more cards, but I didn't want to think about it too hard, and our decks were already performing fairly well. Here, I was debating whether I wanted to get Enlightened on Magnus, or I wanted to get HP on the entire team. We do go for the Enlightened. It gives him energy. It gives him some more Bless, so I figured that'd be pretty good. We get the increased cost, unfortunately, by taking the gamble here, but we do get to still upgrade Poisonous Blood. We had a lot of shards, so I didn't think it would matter too much, and it really doesn't. We get the Baptism there on Nesglect, and we were able to change Dilute finally into the one that gets rid of Bleed, or transforms Bleed into Wet Charges. So very solid for us there, because we are getting a lot more bleed on us thanks to the Fury generation that Magnus is accruing with Enrage and just the Gladiator Helm. Yeah, so upgrading the Spike Shield on Heiner there. We could have upgraded Citadel maybe if we got like a super decrease in costs. Vigilance I still have in Sylvie's deck. I should have gotten rid of it. I was just looking at it, I'm like, man, why do I have this? Make sure that last Enrage. We got 3 Enrages total for Magnus, which is pretty solid. So we now have +5 Fury on 3 cards, plus we could double up that Fury with Mirror of Cassandra at any point in time and keep those cards in our deck if we so wish. So good stuff all around here. Don't get to upgrade that Entomb, sadly. I think I got rid of one of the Entombs. Yeah, I did. It deserves it. Entomb is so terrible. We do get one last chance to get an exotic shop. That's kind of one of the reasons I saved up on money, because I was just, in case I got an exotic shop and I wanted it. Upwind is not too scary for us. We're used to being slow. I mean, we did do speed manipulation a lot of the time, but at the same time, we're used to being slow. We do unfortunately get silenced on Sylvie, which matters somewhat because Harley attacked the back guy who had that silence buff on himself. Every time he gets hit, and then our song cards are some of our draw cards. So just a little bit of funniness there. Other than that, I was pretty sure as long as I could get through the first turn without dying immediately, this fight wasn't going to be too much of a problem. The Knights haven't been scaring me so far. I mean, they did deal some damage to me, which was impressive. They got through a lot of our block. But when I have Steelforge out, we're not going to have trouble. Oh man, am I discarding Citadel right there? Sad days. No, I think I just put it back on top of my deck because I wasn't going to have the energy, but I will next turn. Here we get to stealth up again. I get to make the choice of whether I upgrade or double up on entrench or barricades. I decide to kind of split the difference. Copy one barricade, copy one enrage. So I said entrench, but meant enrage. And as you can see, we have 45 bleed on Magnus, and I can delete that bleed into wet, and then I can give him bless based off of it if I get the baptism, which I do right here. And yeah, we can get him up to 42 bless. So on top of the 48 fury and the 10 powerful that he had, that he lost for some reason right there. I think they just purged it. Yeah, we can do a lot. Look at that. Look at that. We didn't take any damage thanks to Citadel and the Mitigate because all those were double damage cards. And they just repeated a whole bunch of time. And then we had the Steelforge proccing. So good. And there you can see Poisonous Blood working out. We transformed all the 100 poison into 200 poison and 200 bleed. It was a clutch card in my skills run, but it still wasn't enough. And we find an Infuriate for our troubles. Very, very lucky for us. We do find another shop here. Power Coil would have been great if I could have afforded it. We do get a second Gladiator Helm though, so we start with double the Fury on Magnus. And yeah, I'm going to buy that, and very shortly here I'm going to be handing it off to my past self, who was very excited at the end of this run. What are we going to do indeed? Going to lay down that final save, take care of an injury, sure. I find it funny that you can't skip this event, so like, which is almost never a problem, except for that one time where it was when I was wanting Navalia to stay at low health, and then I had to heal her. What am I removing? Am I removing anything even? Infuriate's funny. I have so many power fantasies that can come true, and they might come true. Did I forget to make Desperate Pair 3? I did. That's a mistake. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me too hard. You know what? We're good. We don't need to remove anything. Decks are perfect. Might as well level up right now. What are we doing? All damage plus 7? Absolutely. What is this equipment doing now? 21 frost as a base. I love it. Yeah, Magnus gets the chance to speak here. I served under you in the Wolf Wars to protect the kingdom. Why do you betray it now? Because I'm greedy and want power. That's what hanshek says. Okay. So something important here is Nezglek goes after. We want him to go after. Sylvie's gonna go first, so that's good. Nezglek needs to go after because we need slows on all the enemies. And the only one who can really provide slow is Magnus. And Magnus needs to be sped up faster than 25, so yeah. Instead of Heiner's turn being the most important, we need to make sure that Nezglek draws actually all the most important stuff. One slow on everybody isn't that great, not exactly what I'd call good. We could banish the top 4, that might be good to have. But yeah, we just want to draw that one speed card. Okay. The rest of what we do here doesn't matter too much. We can do Vigilance, it's fine. Stacking up his stuff is going to be okay. Huh. Huh. Well, that scares me. I think I can do this once, right? God, I want a barricade so badly. I can do this once, yeah, okay. It doesn't slow him down too much. We're gonna be okay. That's a lot of bleed. We're gonna be fine. Nezglek gets to go. If he draws the speed card, we're good. He didn't, but we can draw. And we get Omen of Peril. which should be fine. Because Omen of Peril will make sure that we draw what we need. Dilute might be good. Oh, wait, Dilute Baptism. No, we need the speed. That's what it is. So the other play I have here is I couldn't dilute into Baptism. Unfortunately, they're in the wrong order. Okay. That's fine. We definitely just want Omen of Peril here. Get rid of Healing Rain. Draw a card. We don't have as much Bless as I would like, but that's okay. We will Rain. Omen of Peril is a skill, so we should still be able to play Desperate Prayer. Desperate Prayer is costing more than it should, but it's fine. Because now Magnus is faster than the clones, then Magnus can slow down all the clones. And let's make sure this clone dies. I don't know if he really needs to, but we're going to do it. And then Detoxify. And Magnus. He has a little bit of Bless. He's going to do okay. And then Heiner can start blocking for the world. Yes, I said Heiner can start blocking for the world. We're going to have a Citadel here. Beautiful. Beautiful. Battle plan. Even. We can slow them down somewhat. No, that doesn't slow them down at all, but makes me feel better. Okay, that was a mistake. Anyways, Magnus is fast enough. That's what's important. They're all doing the Dispel, so they're all trying to be extra annoying. They're also doing Purge, which is annoying. Hawkeye, we can find weakness. Who are we killing? Hopefully most of them. Scavenge. We can trace to make sure that Magnus is drawing the right cards. He's getting Thunderclap. He's getting Burning Blood. We don't need the Repair Armor. Battle Shout's fine. We need the powerful. Burning Blood is not really like needed, but you know, it's here. Okay, we definitely probably just Barricade. Barricade into, actually we probably Captain's Hell. Double Captain's Hell gets them all to max. Slows them down a lot. We can still Burning Blood for maximum fury. It doesn't really help. Man, that Infuriate changed everything. Enraging twice there is fine. The clones are now all kind of slow enough. Okay. We didn't kill any of the clones, which is bad. But if you look at it another way, we have infinite Bless. No, God. Okay, we actually have 50 Bless. That's pretty solid. So 50 Bless, 100 Fury, 10 Powerful. That's as damaging as you can get. It was really a matter of energy. And unfortunately the timing not really working perfectly. They are going to Dispel a lot. They're purging only one hero once, so they're not going to get rid of my Infuriate no matter what they do. We're going to survive a turn. They're going to Dispel pretty much everything. But even that's okay. So we want to focus on having as much draw as possible. All our pets are going to die, which is very sad. Don't want to get rid of all my Fury. Then what do I want to do? Probably give more energy to Magnus. I think that's the play. One of them's going to go. Okay, they did purge Magnus, so they were annoying. That guy's going to be faster now, but not faster than Magnus already, so that's good. And we have Steelforge, so we're not going to die this turn. That's for sure. Even speed up. We're going to apply Bleed to everybody. The wet charges are unfortunately all going to get dispelled, but that should be okay. And then Magnus can keep his Fortify. And we can't even battle plan. Oh wait, that doesn't really matter. Now that I think about it. I mean, it's like it's a little bit of damage, but they're all going to heal and dispel, so Yeah, we got unlucky in the fact that they all decided to dispel. But we got kind of lucky in that they're not all purging. Okay, they dispelled literally everything, which is extremely annoying. But Magnus is as damaging as he can be right now. So, at least have a Toxic Rain. And then, what is Magnus drawing? He's drawing Barricades. So we just want to make sure he draws more Barricades. We can speed up the entire team, doesn't help. Stone Skin, Caltrops. Give you maximum bleed, I guess. We could Smoke Bomb. Again, I don't think it matters. Does Sylvie being fast next turn matter? It might, so we'll do it. Smoke Bomb. And Magnus is probably devastating at this point. Might be worth it to Piercing House so that we can get them all low vulnerability, but maybe it's just better to do a Piercing Howl. Does slow them all down, which is nice. Okay. It's not as much damage as I was hoping, honestly. They all have a good amount of frost resist, maybe that's why. I thought this would be more. 200 damage a pop. Okay. Okay, we killed a clone. Killed a second clone. Got Steel Skin, then... Alright. We are bleeding a lot, but hopefully Nazgûl can take care of that. We'll keep Magnus's charges going up. We didn't kill the other clone, which is kind of just unlucky. But it happens. Mass Dispel is what we want. We have a Dilute for Magnus, so we can have maximum wet. We have Fortune Telling as well, so we can continue to draw. That should draw everything that he needs to. And then, what are we going to do? Everybody's surviving, I think. So, we can give Sylvie some draw. We can give Heiner some draw. Give some love to Heiner. Then Magnus surviving is really all that matters. We'll give Sylvie something. That's fine. Sylvie can have her cards. Here, we'll just make sure we have some buffer on Heiner, and we're gonna have a lot of block. Push forward, barbed wires, entrench, blood rain. It's not that good, but it's good enough. Do we have max draw? Yeah, we have max draw because of Sylvie going first. So, yeah. As much draw as we can possibly need. Blood rain. Guard on myself, I guess? I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Here we go, they're purging. Glad he didn't purge me there. He's dead. So we got all the clones down. We have 400 block, and he's not doing his mega damage turn. Magnus is going to kill them all. I'm so excited. That's negative, okay, 7 vulnerability, so he's got 31 frost resistance still? That's just impressive. I gotta be impressed by the guy. He's doing his best. Caltrops, will Smoke Bomb, just for that little bit of extra stealth damage at the very beginning of the first Barricade I play. Okay. Barricade, gotta love it, doing some thousands of damage, and that's it. Alright. On to the Archon. We're here. Oh man, that feels good. You know, I forgot about Infuriate being a card. That probably should have been something I picked up a long time ago. Well, that was only as soon as I saw Mirror of Cassandra, but like... Yeah. I don't know anybody's watching at this point, but I'm feeling pretty good about the run. None of these are survival. Again, we don't want to go too fast. Except Sylvie wants to go fast. 27 speed is not fast enough? Wait a second, 27 speed's not fast enough? In that case, we probably just want the Archon to go slow. Alright, there's Infuriate. So, like, Just double up Infuriate now. We're good. That's all we needed to do. Cool. He's now slower. And I could save the captain's health? Yeah, why not? So we got a lot of bleed. Let's see what else we can get. We got the... Oh, interesting. Actually, with the Twilight Swamp, maybe I could have done something. Got the speed up card, but what does the speed up card do for me? Could make Magnus 6 faster, but that's not fast enough. Yeah, it's just not fast enough, right? Sylvie could be faster than the clone, but what does that do? Nothing. Sylvie doesn't have a slow because we couldn't take a single slow in her deck, so all of them deal damage. Normally it'd be just good enough. Magnus being fast can't hurt though. So we can Twilight Swamp. We can't Twilight Swamp and do everything, so I think Magnus being fast is going to be okay. We'll dispel that bleed. Yeah, we'll dispel that bleed. And increase health. Get a massive spell, so we want to put that on top of our deck next turn. Oh, but we have to loot now. Dang it, I should have thought about it. It's fine. I think we can overcome a little bit of a hassle. Okay. Shield stance, guard, everything becomes cheaper. Helping Hand, we can Helping Hand Sylvie even. Helping Hand Magnus, because Sylvie will lose it. All heroes can have Entrench, we can all be fast. We can all be spiky. And the clone can go next turn and ruin my whole mojo. Yeah, 28 speed. He's so fast. At least the Dark Archon's slow this turn, so we were able to go faster. Now we don't have a lot of energy on Magnus, which is one of the big problems. That's just one of the big problems. Let's see, what are we doing here? Can do Stone Skin on top, I guess. Yeah, that energy is going to be a problem. Okay. Still, we have probably Enrages that we can double up on. Okay, and then we probably just Piercing Hell, double up on that so that they're all slow. And then while we're enraging, I might want to save this enrage for another turn actually. Burning Blood's pointless. I guess I get rid of the wet, that's not really great. Okay. But we at least can go to the slow here, make the clone much slower next turn, keep it enraged in our deck for Mirror of Cassandra. No, we can play this turn. Now we keep it enraged in our deck for Mirror of Cassandra. Do we play Steel Skin? This is where he does damage through block, right? Yeah, it does. Just to the front hero, though. That's right, I always think it's like every hero, but it's not. It's just the front guy. So I could play the Steel Skin, but I don't need to. We're not going to have our Dilute Baptism combo, because I kind of messed it up. We will have Night Terrors on this boss. Can apply Wet. Maybe hope to get rid of this guy. Magnus, I guess he's going to need this. We'll keep a Baptism on top, and then Magnus is going to die soon? We need to be worried? I might need to worry. Oh, we have Steelforge too. Right. And now we have Citadel. Which Citadel gives us Mitigate. I'm going to have too much block, but that's okay. Heiner's not going to die from this, right? It's only 0.4 of the block. Cool, he takes some damage. Yeah, he's fine. He was fine. Okay. If I could somehow make Magnus slower than Nezglik, that would be beautiful. There's no way to speed up just a single character, because I didn't take that in my deck, even though I probably should have. Okay. Still gonna enchant you. What are we gonna do? Apparently just ruin Magnus's whole life. I don't know, Stone Skin? Sylvie's not really doing much. Sylvie's kind of here. She's here to provide target shooting at this point. Okay. So now we want to double up on barricades. Probably want to double up on Battle Shout. Do Thunderclap. Okay, we can get another Howl off. Barricade. Howl. Do this. Barricade. We're almost through. We just need to get rid of all his poison, or bleed. That's what it's called. Which Mass Dispel should absolutely do. Right? Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't pretty, but I think we're going to be fine. I didn't get to live out the fantasy this turn. Or I got to live it out with hanshek, so that's okay. I'll give him some bless. Makes me feel a little bit better. Now we have enough block. This next turn, we're not even hitting him, so the evasiveness doesn't matter. Am I actually going to kill him during this turn? I swear that never happens. Now we're going to draw 3 anyways. Magnus is pretty much drawing his entire deck, so it's fine. Guard. Guard, speed. Everybody's faster. Dark Archon is... He's actually just going to get hurt. Okay, shuffling Sads into our deck, right? That's annoying. But I might be able to trace those Sads out of Madness's hand. If I get lucky. I did not, but that is okay. He's got the vulnerability on him. He's getting rid of a lot of our energy, it looked like. But we'll Smoke Bomb regardless. And we can last stand if we want to. We can leave our last stands behind. No, we'll just barricade. Yeah, that seems to be working pretty well. We can also barricade. Then if we want to, we could, I don't know, transfuse this. Sylvie has one more turn left, so I guess we can be safe and just give her some doom in case. I'm not actually sure that the Archon makes it past this turn, but we'll find out. I can last stand now? Wait, is that too expensive? Might be too expensive. I could just enrage and draw the barricade. Yeah, perfect. Insanity. Alright, we're not killing him as early as I would like, but we are killing him. Let's see. We could... is there any way I can banish cards from his deck? It could be not the right cards. We can give him fortune telling. So that's kind of fine. Buff him up a little bit. Oh, he dies next turn. He dies next turn. So I do need to get rid of all of that. Cool. That's gonna be it for Nezglik. 400 block thanks to Heiner. Gonna have maximum draw because we can. Fortify, why not? Guard, sure. Yeah, Sylvie, you're gonna do it. Alright. He's dying to the thorns. Not exactly, but like, honestly, he's dying to the thorns and bleed more than I thought he was going to. And Sylvie's put in the work. Alright, that's gonna be the end of this run. We're all set. I didn't get to live out the 50 bless on this run, or this fight, but we're gonna be okay. Give martyrdom to Heiner, you know. Make sure we never leave him behind. Oh wait, we can do Trace on Magnus? No, Trace on Magnus doesn't really help. Does it? Gets rid of repair armor? Sure, kinda helps. Maybe. Okay, barricade. It's over. Round 5. Behold the pioneer of across the obelisk. Thanks. Well, apparently Wabzilla did this alongside me and completed it earlier, so... I thought I might need the power of Straw Hat to give it a win. That was going to be my other attempt, but guess we didn't need Straw Hat.
This is a story of how they saved me.
That's awesome. Thank you, thank you. Cool. Yeah, as always, I'll go over our stats, see our past games. We can see this sad run. This is the other run I tried a while ago. Made it all the way to hanshek, but just couldn't get through. I really wanted to use Energy Shield. Same round that you killed him on? Nice. Yeah, I really wanted to use Energy Shield and like make a lot of use out of it. That's what inspired this run for me. But yeah, Purple Mirror solves all the problems. But yeah, back to future me here. Alright, we are going to go over the stats. There are some things I didn't quite understand the last time. I still don't know why Nezgelect had 26 damage dealt. I know why Heiner has 844 direct damage dealt. That's because it counts the book damage as direct damage, and he did play Battle Plan, so anytime we played a book, Freezing Ink dealt some damage and wet to the entire enemy team. Because there's a lot of wet, he was able to actually rack up a fair bit of damage. It's really cool seeing him do all the thorns damage. He did a lot more than Sylvie, of course, because he was in the very front. Again, if I had had Sylvie in there, it probably would have been even more than this. But like I said in the run, there's a good reason for that. Sylvie might have died to some of the purge block enemies that I could have ended up facing. Though I don't think it was too much of a problem. Sylvie, of course, has direct damage thanks to Harley. That's mainly her source, plus the Quill. Don't know why I can't think of why Nezgelect has any direct damage. There must have been something I picked up at some point in the run. I would love to see just like the 26 damage that was somehow dealt. I do know that the stats are sometimes like occasionally bugged as well. But you can watch the whole thing back. I didn't play a single damage card. So that part of the run is still intact. And then Magnus, of course, gets all the COLDBONE damage here. Doing solid carry numbers here. This is like a lot of the early game is really strong. You can see in our Thorns game here. One of the reasons that you put your weakest hero in the back, by the way, is this. In the third slot, is because they get targeted the least here, at least most of the time. It's just there's not a lot of cards that reach all the way back to the third row that isn't hitting everyone anyways. And there are a few cards that target the back hero. There's also a few cards that target lowest health hero, so sometimes you can't avoid it. But as you can see with the pitiful amount of thorns damage that Nezgelect was dealing, yeah, I mean, it was also because he didn't have as much thorns as most of the rest of the team, though not by a lot. Like, Magnus didn't really have that many more thorns either, because he was getting all his thorns from, like, Sylvie and Heiner most of the time anyways. There were a few times that he played his own thorns, though, so maybe that adds up. I don't believe it, though. Thankfully, Nezgelect had a ton of dark damage, so it kind of worked out as a run. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed seeing those stats. Again, I'll show off all these items. Got some really good items on this run, I won't deny that. Could have been even luckier, of course, always could be, but I don't think we were unlucky by any stretch. Yeah, so that's really going to do it for the end of this run. If you enjoyed the video, I'm glad. Nothing more to say there. I'm glad you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more, feel free to subscribe. Leave a like if you feel like it deserves it, and have a great day or night wherever you are.